Thank you for joining the Detroit Buy, Hold, Invest podcast. It's another balmy and beautiful winter day in Detroit, Michigan. It is April 7th, 2025. I'm your host, David BRRRR, Detroit Buy, Hold, Invest podcast. Again, I'm going to ask you like I ask you every time. Reach out to me, www.detroitbuyholdinvest.com. If you like the show, like, subscribe, follow. I'm getting just an immense amount of downloads from Apple, from Spotify. We also get a fair amount of streams, like 1,500 downloads a month. I think I'm getting like somewhere around 2,200 streams in a month. Obviously, people are interested. People enjoy the show. We really appreciate that. Detroit Buy, Hold, Invest is a company built for investors, by an investor, myself, somebody who buys, fixes, holds, flips, wholesales, does real estate, 235 deals a year on average in real estate, $20 million. I got listings usually on the market, with the brokerage Clyde Realty, all of us collectively over 100 listings at any given time. We're selling, a house every day, 5 days a week. To investors. We're doing retail flips. We have listings going on. We have everything. And I appreciate all of you guys reaching out. And today, the feel of the show is a lot different because I am beside myself with just being pissed, just anger, frustration. There's so many things in the market right now, personally, business-wise, with investors, with retail people, with other agents, with title companies, with legalities. They say heavy is the head that wears the crown. And I could tell you from my perspective, that is absolutely 100% true. This has been a very challenging year. We are very successful. We've been very successful. We've had a lot of great closings this year and we've had a lot of great things happen. However, it's been a challenge. We started off this year and, before we get into that, the topic of the show is the stock market crash and how it's an opportunity to invest. And I think right now in this day and age, with the way things are going, a lot of people are panicked. A lot of people don't know what's going to happen. A lot of people are worried about their job, if they have government jobs or they have auto industry related jobs, or they have jobs that are tier suppliers for the auto industry, or there's some fringe job that's, somehow connected to these government jobs. And all of them there's uncertainty there, like retail people and renters are what drive, the statistics of the market. And we're all trying to follow that. And we're all trying to figure out, the what's what and what's going to happen and all that stuff. But you have to think, I was born in 1979 and I'm 45 years old. I've turned 46 years old in November. And in my life, we've seen, before I even was paying attention, we've seen interest rates like over 10%, 12%, 14%. We had the Carter days and then we went to the Ronald Reagan days and then it bleeds forward into the Bill Clinton and then George W. Bush and then Obama. And then now we have Trump. And like, there's a pattern with all of these people that I've seen throughout the course of my life, which is you have two opposing parties. They hate each other's guts. They can't agree on anything. Democrats think Republicans are horrible. Republicans have proven that the last stretch of Democrats were horrible. I see people arguing about this all the time, especially recently with this stock market crash that's gone on over the weekend, like into April 1st, which is one of the biggest collapses of the stock market since the Depression. But you have to also, what people don't keep in mind is like what led to this? What led to the stock market? What led to Donald Trump coming in and flipping the whole country red, right? Like, did anybody really see that coming at first? A lot of people would have thought, if it was Biden versus Trump, the country was kind of divided. And, what they did was pump up everything to make it look like inflation made things look better than they were. And a correction was needed. And we can't keep printing money to just keep trying to pay our way out of problems as a country and just create more money to get out of that. We have a $7 trillion total spend, and we only bring in 5 million. There's a $2 trillion deficit or something like that every single year. No business could ever operate this way. Why does our country believe that they can operate this way? Why have they believed that for such a long time? We've been in this recession on and off, the talks about it, but we've been in this extreme pattern of ridiculously bad spending on the part of government for the whole entire life that I've led. I mean, really, no president ever since 1979 has done a really good job. You had people that liked them, you had people that didn't, but none of them were really the savior for our country or for us as people or nothing. They all bullshit. They all tell stories. They all create a scenario in which their ideas are the best ones and everybody else's suck. And then the opposing party always does that too. Going into this last election, like, am I a fan of Trump? Not really at all. I think he's a pompous and arrogant guy, but what I do know, the guy is so wealthy that he's just going to do what he wants to do, and no one can really influence him otherwise. It can be argued that a lot of the things that he does, protects his own interests and interests of people that are around him, which I agree, but that's nothing different than what all of these jackasses have been doing for my entire life. Like, there's nothing really that Trump is doing that other people aren't doing. Like, people say, Joe Biden was horrible. Joe Biden was senile. Joe Biden blew up inflation. Joe Biden created an illusion of a great market. Stock wise, other people argue that the stock market was better than it's been in a long time under him. Some people say he was an articulate and educated man. Other people say that he was basically senile for the entire time that he was president. But then all of these things led to the country deciding that they were tired of it. And obviously, people were ready to bring in the Republican mindset because the country turned red. It's not deniable, right? And a lot of that was because they brought in Kamala Harris, which, I'm open to hearing the ideas and benefit to all people when it relates to an election. But I'm telling you, from my personal perspective, all of the times that I sat and watched this woman talk, she never articulated a point ever. It was word salad all the time. She never made any sense. She babbled on and on and on. I don't believe that she was even capable of being a president. And I wonder what the alternative would have been if she would have actually been elected as president. Like, would we be in a better place than we are right now? And I'm saying that after a complete collapse of the stock market over the last 5 days. We have all of these things that are going on with the tariffs and people are losing confidence, and we have all this negative connotation with these other countries and, bad things with China and now you're seeing certain countries are saying, hey, we're willing to trade with you with no tariff. Now people are starting to understand that, I think a lot of things that Trump does, he's always trying to back you down, and he always tries to use an intimidation tactic to negotiate in his deals, which, I understand that because as a real estate person, I am one that will back you down. That's part of what I do. I'm an intimidating guy. I'm intimidating in the way that I negotiate sometimes, and I'm not afraid to say what I want, and I don't care who doesn't like it, and that's just part of who I am. And I think a lot of that is the way that Trump is. He says what he wants. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He gets everyone all stirred up and riled up. He's got the Democrat people going out of their mind to the point where some of the things that I'm reading through social media, people want to hate Donald Trump so bad that they've lost all ways to receive any logic at all, and this is being said by me, who is a guy who I don't really like politicians in general, and I don't side all the way with Republican. I don't side all the way with Democrats. I'm kind of in the middle. I think they're all full of shit, and I want to know what's best for me and my family and the people around me to help us be, to benefit and see prosperity and have a future in mind that doesn't, involve us being slaves to public money or assistance or welfare or whatever. I believe that if you get up early every day and you have purpose and you work real hard and you don't give up and you're rejection proof and you just keep hammering the nail every day, that you're going to be successful. And that's the truth. And most people who are successful, that's what they do. They just wake up, they show up earlier, they stay later, they work harder than you, and they're just rejection proof. And they don't give a shit about adversity. Adversity is just another, hurdle to jump in the race, and that's how I feel. And I've always felt that way. But I'm so sick and tired of where we're at in the economy, where we're at in the market. And now there's all of this information coming out about the COVID whole situation and how, that all played out with Dr. Fauci and how much of a lying piece of crap this guy was. And I mean, there's no denying that there was COVID and that was a virus or whatever that, affected people, and a lot of people died from it, and it was horrible. And, people lost loved ones, and some people prematurely died, and some people are still suffering from long-term COVID, or long COVID, and they're still suffering to this day from that stuff. And then on the other side of it, there's all these people that got vaccinated, and there's all these cases of people who took that vaccine who now have these long-standing, maybe for the rest of their life, medical problems, disorders, diseases, whatever you want to call it, genetic mutations, all kinds of stuff. There's all these things coming out. And I watched this documentary called Thank You, Dr. Fauci, and I saw it being advertised with Tucker Carlson, on some social media ad. And I thought, I really want to see, because COVID, when it first started, and I'm going to get to where this is all going. But when COVID first started, I remember people were saying, like, they're going to shut the whole state down. They're going to shut the whole country down. Like, there's no way they can't do that. There's no way they could do that. Well, March 20th of 2020, they did. And as an agent, I was not essential. And essentially my business couldn't run. Even though I was working investors and stuff, like, I, as an agent, couldn't go out on the road and do my physical job. Like, I had to sit home, and they expected me to collect unemployment and all this stuff. And I'm like, screw that. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to pay people who are essential to go out and do the things I need done. And I will respect the lockdown so that, I don't run the risk of getting this COVID, which at the time we all thought that this was horrible. And like, we didn't know what it was going to do. And people were afraid. And I didn't want to bring that home to my wife or my kids or whatever. And, potentially someone gets sick to the point where they have to go to the hospital, where it's just inundated with all of these people who are dying from being, having COVID and being put on ventilators. And then later they find out that the ventilators weren't like the way to treat it. And it's just like all these mistakes were made. They rushed to get this, inoculation or whatever you want to call it, the vaccines, for COVID, that got rushed so fast, and people, started telling you need to do it. I remember going to the doctor, and like, my doctor was just shoving that stuff down my throat. And I'm like, no way. I'm not doing that. I'm not taking this shot. I'm not doing that. I don't know what it is. No one's proven to me what it is. I don't know what it's going to do to me. I have my parents who are, my mom and my stepdad, they're super Democrats. They hate Trump. They hate Republicans. They only side Democrat. They have always been that way, and that's fine. I respect it. But, they went out as older people and got that Johnson & Johnson, vaccine. And so far, glory to God that they don't have any long-standing issues, but we don't know what that's going to do. We don't know. And where I'm going with this is, right now is a time for you to understand that if you put yourself in the right financial situation, all of these type of things create instances as an investor that you can absolutely capitalize and take advantage of it, right? And I mean, in my life, look at what we've gone through since 1980. We've had all kinds of political problems. We've gone through all kinds of wars. We've had the Persian Gulf War. We've had Afghanistan. We had Iraq a bunch of times. We've had all these battles overseas now, like with Israel and the West Bank and Palestine and all the stuff. And the United States is mobilizing again, bringing in aircraft carriers and, all of this stuff to like go and fight another war. We have issues with China, issues with Russia, issues with Ukraine, and the stuff with, the little midget man who came in here and got into it with Trump and JD Vance, where they had to kind of sun him, or whatever. it's just never ending, right? Like there's always going to be political problems. There's always going to be some sort of volatility in any market, whether it's a bull run or a bear run, or you're talking about, buying shares of Nvidia, or you're talking about buying Bitcoin or XRP or, Ethereum or whatever it is. Like there's volatility and it's up and down all the time. And for people who day trade, I think people who day trade understand more so like the manipulation of the banks versus the market, and what like regular people think and how they live versus people who understand how the world works. And when you day trade and you look at those candles every day and you see the up and the down, the reds and the greens, you can see how these banks flood the market, manipulate the price, and then pull the rug out from the public multiple times every single day. They do that every single day. And that's how day traders capitalize, right? They come in and they buy and they sell out before they get rugged, and they do it every day. And some guys I know make 10, 13, 15,000 a day, 500 a day. They make money on that every day by looking at the bank flooding the market, driving up the price, and then right before they pull the rug out and sell, when the public starts finding out what's going on, they start trying to put their money in. That's right about the time when they get rugged. And they do it multiple times every single day. And this whole thing collectively with, a new president trying to right the wrongs of all of the former, presidents or whatever, however they want to put that, like, did everybody do everything wrong, or does Trump just believe he's right about everything? I think Trump just believes he's right about everything. And he's got a bunch of people who are around him who are too afraid to oppose him, because if they do, he's going to fire them, blow them out. And he says the most like unprofessional stuff about people when he does that, whether they deserve it or not. Sure, he's had some people who were, idiots that he, scolded him, or he said nasty things or whatever. But I will say, as a president, he's like the most unprofessional non-politician person. Like when he was doing his address when he first became president, and none of the Democrats were standing up, and he was just browbeating them throughout the course of that. And it was like, this is not how politicians have historically been, and it's to some it's funny, and to some it's unprofessional or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, you're a president of the most powerful country in the world, and like everything that you say, it reverberates not only to the people that live in this country, but to all the countries that we do business with, or the countries that we protect, or whatever. And it's very scary, because we have other countries like Iran and China, for example, who are not, they don't use rational thought, and they do extremely knee-jerk type reaction things, right? And especially when you're dealing with these like terrorist organizations like Hamas or something like that, like you're making direct attacks toward people who like took advantage of the border being open. Now they have all of these people in this country that they could attack us from within. And it's very possible that in the near future, we will see that. Imagine all of these people, these immigrants that have come in, illegals who came through the border, whether they be Hispanics or Arabs or, Israelis or whatever they are, right? Like there's all these different people. There's Colombian drug cartel people. There's, South American cartels of all kinds, Mexicans. There's, Arabs and Asians and all these different people, like every single ethnicity that could have came through that border. If they had good intent or they had bad intent, like we won't really know. But now we're gonna find out, right? Because now they're here, and now you're poking the dragon, and you're saying all of these things, and people are very volatile right now, and people are very filled with emotion, because not only do you have all the volatility from this last election and all the hatred that ensued prior to that, and flipping a whole country to red instead of blue, and blowing out Kamala Harris and making the election be what it was, and all these people became patriotic or whatever, and then at the same time, he comes in. And everything that this guy is trying to do, whether it's good or bad, they're pushing back. And the media is, the narratives are so different between the right and left side. When you watch those news reports versus one versus the other, like they're telling two different stories And sometimes the shit they're saying is 100% not even true. And there's no regulation to that at all. And I'm so tired of that. I'm so tired. It's one thing for some jackass to have a Facebook account and go on to, some Facebook group and spout off ignorance or whatever. It's another thing for a fucking world leader to do these things, right? Or for a media outlet, a major United States media outlet to go out there and just straight up lie and make shit up, and there's no recourse for that. I don't know how that relates to freedom of speech. Like, yelling fire in a crowded movie theater is illegal. Why should you be able to create completely false, fabricated bullshit stories and then put that shit out there knowing that there's all of these volatile people who are just looking for a reason to do something stupid, and you're fueling the fire and the story's not even true. If it was true, it is what it is, right? If it's not true, though, we shouldn't be able to do that. You shouldn't have freedom of speech to make shit up, to stir the pot and make people become dangerous toward each other. Like that, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that at all, and I never will be. But anyway, the topic of the show is this stock market crash a time to invest? And it is a time to invest. And let's look back, to 2008, right? The banks, we all know the story, banks lent money essentially to people who they knew could never pay it back. The number was called. People couldn't pay it back. It turned into like mass foreclosures, and the market was flooded with inventory. The market went to shit. Houses dropped in price by over 50% in a lot of cases. And then the market was at the bottom. While the market was at the bottom, though, I'll tell you a story of like me entering into a real estate deal to this day that I still am profiting from. So in 2009, Obama was president. And in 2008, he gave a credit. It was like $7,500 tax credit to people to buy homes at that time. And people ran out, and it stimulated the economy. People ran out and tried to buy houses, but at the same time, the market was collapsing. And I waited and waited. And in 2009, the market literally had fallen to the absolute bottom in September. It was September 20th of 2020. No, I'm sorry. September 20th of 2009. And I bought the house that I currently live in, and it was a FHA foreclosure being sold through HUD that only could be purchased by homeowners at the time. And it was marked at $86,000. And the property today is worth $240,000. And I literally, at the time, was able to get an FHA loan. I put 3.5% down. I got 6% seller concessions from HUD on the deal. And I bought the house literally out of pocket, $2,100 out of pocket to buy the house that I live in today for $86,000. And I lived here, and the house was in really good shape. It had a 15-year-old roof on it, had vinyl windows, had a brand new porch put on it, had a new driveway, 2-car garage. It had a newer furnace, a newer water tank. And it was just like someone just abandoned it. They just walked away, left it, gave it back to the bank, and I was able to buy it. And all I had to do was turn the water on, clean the carpets in my finished basement. I had carpets in there, clean the carpets, get all the utilities on, and fire the furnace. And the AC unit needed to be recharged. And I literally moved in, and that was all we had to do was repaint the house. And I bought the house for $86,000, and now I've made, $150,000 or something in equity on this house. And at the time, I got a mortgage for 5.75%. And then during COVID, I was able to refinance to like 2.675. And that's like free money, right? But at the time, I had very little debt. That was, I only keep a small balance on the house because I need it, right? I'm a self-employed entrepreneur, and I need to have certain things for me to have credit, for me to be able to leverage to do things. All of the rentals and stuff that I have, I own cash free and clear. And the only mortgage that I have is on 2 properties that I own and use. and that's it. And I'm extremely in the green when it comes to profitability versus what I paid. Right. And, for me, like sometimes you got to play games with the bank's money, keep your credit score up and be able to do some stuff. But everyone at the time in 2009, when I bought the house, people are like, oh my God, the market's collapsing. Like it may never recover. And I'm like, they're going to give me let me also say, not only did I get a loan for 5 3/4 and I only had to put like $2,100 down. After I closed, I got a check they were giving you $1,000 up to $80,000. So for every $10,000 that the house was, they gave you $1,000, and the house was 86 grand. So I got a check for 8 grand plus interest because they sent me the check late. It was like $8,200, and I only put $2,100 down. So I made 6 grand to buy the house. I actually did not cost me any money. And at the time, people were like, you're never going to make any money. Like the market's going to collapse. It's going to be even worse. Like no one's going to be able to survive. The world's going to end. And I'm like, there's no way. Real estate runs in 18-year cycles. Right now, we're 16 years into the current cycle, and we're set for another real estate correction. And I keep telling people that. But right now, it's not. Investing right now is the way. Why is that? Well, you got people who are afraid to buy stuff. They don't want to buy a house. Interest rates have been high. The prices are high. People that have high equity, like me, are not selling. So we're holding tight because we don't need to. We got plenty of equity in our houses, or we own them free and clear, or we have extremely good interest rates because we refinanced after COVID when the rates became like free money, right? And then the rest of the people, though, that are out there that can buy are like first-time home buyers or people that have no choice but to buy, or the people who just make enough money where they don't care, or irresponsible people who are just ready to just jerk off money whenever they feel like it, right? And all of these people that are afraid are up against a market that already is short in inventory. We have a very short amount of inventory. We're not building new houses here, and even if we did in Michigan, no one can afford them. Very little part of the population can actually afford to buy into a $500,000 or $700,000 brand new house. So these people are hoping that the small ball game, 100 to 250,000 is going to open up, and it's not. And so what are they doing? They're not doing anything. But what do they do in the meantime? They got to live somewhere. They have to live in an apartment. They have to live in a condo. They have to live in a rental house. They have to live in a townhouse, whatever, and rent. So inventory stays short. The rent stays extremely high, and these people aren't going to move. They're going to stay longer, and you're going to make money as a landlord. You can continue to buy properties during this cycle, knowing that in the next, 2 to 5 years, like you're going to be able to get the most rent, and you're going to be able to take advantage of like a little bit better interest rates. They're starting to go down. We've gotten a 0.5 point. Now the economy is bad. What are people doing? The investors are moving their money out of the stock market into bonds. When they move their money into bonds, it drives the interest rates down. When interest rates go down, that stimulates the economy. It stimulates people to buy houses more, and it stimulates investors to buy houses more because they get a better rate and term on their loan. So it saves them money so they can cash flow better. And it's just the way it is. And people don't identify this stuff because they're not in the game, or they're looking from the outside, or they're spending too much time listening to these like fake ass internet gurus who are blowing smoke up your ass. And you don't know because you don't take the time to like really look into it and read all sides of the story. You fixate on the media that you choose. And sometimes the media that you choose, or the person or personality that spews it, is not the only outlook, and you start believing shit that's not true because you don't take the time to really do your research and like listen to a couple different perspectives, or multiple, or read books or magazines or articles, or look at non-biased media, or look at both sides of the media and try to find out, what the truth is. But this is the thing. Right now, this economy is very, very good in the Metro Detroit area, and it provides a buy-in that you can't get almost anywhere in the country. You can buy a house here for between $70,000 and like $130,000 and rent it and make money off the market rent, depending on the area that you buy and how much you pay. In other markets, the majority, I will say 80 to 90% of the markets in this country, you cannot do that. You cannot go put 20% down on a property, get a mortgage on it, put a tenant in there, and actually collect the rent and make a profit over and above your PITI, right? Or over and above your payment, taxes, insurance, maintenance, property management, all that stuff. Like, you can't bankroll nothing. You're doing it to break even or for negative passive income. And that's a recipe for failure. But in Detroit, in the Midwest, from Cleveland to Toledo to Detroit to Pittsburgh to Memphis to Baltimore, like, there's only a few left, and people have identified this, and they are buying in these areas, and they're using these properties to put these people in and make passive income and get appreciation. And they're buying knowing that real estate always and will continue to always go up in value. You have it. It's physical, hard assets. No one can take it away from you. If you get insurance, if it burns down, you get paid. You could drive by it every single day and put your hands on it. No one can take it away. Right? This is not stocks where you put $100,000 in and the market collapses and you lose the money. There's nothing you can do. Right? That's why people like me buy hard assets like gold, platinum, silver, diamonds, Rolex watches, art, real estate, classic cars, all kinds of stuff. Things that you buy that you can sell for a profit that will hold and stand the test of time. And crypto and the stock market, for people who are smart, it is a way to make money. Real estate is a way to make money for the average investor who doesn't want to take a lot of risk. And the good thing is, in this particular Detroit metro market, it doesn't matter if the houses go up another 10 or 15%. It doesn't matter. The rents will just continue to follow it because people have no choice but to rent. There's not a lot of stuff for them to rent, and that means the rents will go up. And if the rents go up and the prices go up, it will just be the same. In 2017, a house in Detroit, a good deal on a house in Detroit was $35,000, and the tenants were paying between $750 and $850. By 2019, that $35,000 house was like $65,000, $70,000, and the rents were like $950 to $1,000. Now that same house could be $95,000 to $100,000. And the rent is $1,300. The trend will continue. People need places to live. If they can't buy a house, they have to rent, or they have to go somewhere, and whoever they live with is going to have to buy or rent. And that creates a situation where investors can capitalize. And if the market continues to be volatile, the bond market will afford lower interest rates. Lower interest rates will make things more affordable, will leave more passive income and meat on the bone for smart investors, and so on and so on. And I'm sick and tired of hearing that, it's all bad. I mean, what was all bad to me in my lifetime was COVID, where the state of Michigan and the federal government told me that I can't leave my house. I can't travel to where I want to go. I can only go to the grocery store and home. I am not essential, and I cannot run my business. I cannot do the work that I need to do in order for me to run my fucking business. And I thought, how will we ever recover from this? And we recovered from it. And not only did we recover from it quickly, the real estate market in the year that followed exploded, and values went through the roof. So did rent. It lasted for about 2 years solid. And people like me and myself personally made a lot of money, grew our businesses, grew extremely deep roots, dug our heels in, and continued to drive forward and make money and be successful. And people like me have done that over and over again. I am not the first person. I will definitely not be the last. I'm not the smartest. I ain't the stupidest, right? But anytime that the house is on fire and people are running out, smart people are running in. And that's what you need to think about. And that's what we do. So think about this stuff. Think about how it affects you. Think about what you're going to do with your life. Instead of just sitting around and hoping that things will change, enact change. Do something. Go out, identify what you can do, how you can do it, put together a strategy, reach out to somebody that knows a little bit more than you, and go after your hopes and your dreams. And don't let some company you work for, or some business that you work for, or some government entity that you work for make you believe that sometimes things are good and other times you need to just sit there and hope that things are going to work themselves out. Work things out for yourself. This is America. It's the greatest country in the world. Everyone has an opportunity to become extremely successful, and nobody can stop you but you. Anyway, I appreciate you listening. Thank you for joining the Detroit Buy, Hold, Invest podcast. I'm your host, David BRRRR. Please like, subscribe, follow. You can find me on the social medias, www.detroitbuyholdinvest.com. You can look me up under Detroit Buy, Hold, Invest on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. You can look me up under David BRRRR. You can look me up under Clyde Realty. You can look me up anywhere. Shine a light in the sky like Batman. I'll be there for you. Anyway, thanks for your time. Have a great day. Have a great week, and we will see you next time.